Imagine a world where women are drawn to you, not because you chase their attention, not because you strive to impress, but simply for who you inherently are. A presence so composed, so deliberate, that admiration rises without effort, that curiosity lingers in their gaze, that respect is offered without a single demand. This is not a fantasy. It is the quiet reality for those men who have learned to embody the subtle traits that inspire instinctive reverence. Most men, however, walk through life like shadows of themselves, their energy scattered, their attention grasping, their worth tied to fleeting validation. They speak loudly to be noticed, gesture to be admired, and yet their presence evaporates into the background because it is born of need rather than mastery. You, however, have the opportunity to see beyond this, to recognize that the true power that draws women, the power that commands respect, is invisible to the careless eye, yet undeniable in effect. When you stand still in a room, when your voice is measured and deliberate, when your gaze meets hers without flinching or pleading, you awaken something ancient in the mind of a woman. She senses, almost imperceptibly, that your value is not contingent on her attention, that it is intrinsic, steadfast, and quietly unshakable. The human mind, wired over millennia to detect security, competence, and presence, responds to men who exhibit these traits with a subtle fascination, a heightened awareness, a kind of magnetic curiosity. Respect is not earned through words alone, nor is it granted because of charm or superficial effort. It is projected onto a man who maintains composure in the face of uncertainty, whose energy is contained, whose intentions are deliberate and unwavering. Consider how an average man approaches women, his movements hurried, his words loaded with intent to impress, his attention fragmented between the environment and the imagined judgment of others. There is a tension that emanates from him, a contradiction that she senses, even if he believes himself confident. It is the presence of need that undermines authority. Contrast this with a man who embodies internal equilibrium, his gestures purposeful, his energy reserved, his attention deliberate. He is fully present in the moment, yet unattached to external affirmation. Women recognize this instinctively. They feel a shift, subtle yet undeniable, as if a frequency has changed in the air, an alignment of energy that draws their attention without effort or coercion. The psychological principle at work is deceptively simple yet profound. Human beings are drawn to patterns that signal reliability, competence, and emotional steadiness. A man who maintains control over his reactions, who chooses silence over filler, who observes before he acts, is registering on a subconscious radar that women are hardwired to notice. This is not charm. It is cause and effect in its purest form. Each measured step, each calm exhale, each refusal to chase or over-explain communicates a narrative of worth that cannot be fabricated. Here, in these subtle behaviors, lies the invisible scaffolding of admiration, the architecture of respect that is recognized before words are exchanged. Early micro-realizations begin to emerge when you pause to observe your own interactions. The glances you evoke when you speak calmly rather than hastily, the unspoken interest that lingers when you do not seek it, and the quiet acknowledgement when you set boundaries without apology. These are small yet profound victories in the landscape of attraction, a series of psychological nudges that accumulate into perception, shaping how women interpret your value. Each act of composure, each moment of self-possession, compounds into an aura that is both magnetic and immutable. This is the foundation upon which effortless admiration is built, and it is accessible to any man willing to perceive, internalize, and execute with discipline. As you reflect on these truths, consider the inversion that lies at the heart of attraction, what most men pursue desperately, attention, approval, fleeting recognition, repels, whereas what you cultivate quietly, presence, consistency, measured authority, draws. Women do not consciously dissect this. They feel it. It is an instinctive response, an unconscious calculation, a projection of respect that arises naturally when a man embodies what they sense as stability, mastery, and intentionality. Your challenge, then, is not to manipulate, persuade, or perform. Your challenge is to understand, cultivate, and embody. To exist in a state of deliberate self-mastery so compelling that admiration is not requested, it is inevitable. Already, subtle micro-realizations ripple through your consciousness. The ordinary behaviors you once admired or sought to emulate are insufficient, perhaps even counterproductive. The true markers of respect and attraction are internalized, hidden, yet unmistakable in their effect. You begin to notice patterns. Women respond differently to composure than to charisma, to steadiness than to energy, to authenticity than to performance. This awareness is the first step toward transformation. It is the threshold between the common man and the man who commands instinctive respect. Each moment you cultivate presence, each decision to remain grounded rather than reactive, is a brick in the architecture of influence that women recognize before even knowing your name. The room around you, the dynamics you navigate daily, become a stage upon which these principles play out. Observe. The average man moves chaotically, dispersing his energy across trivialities and imagined judgments. The stoic, authoritative man moves with intention, each gesture deliberate, each word measured, each glance a signal of self-possession. Women are attuned to these distinctions. Their subconscious minds map the difference between a man who exists for others, validation, and a man who exists for his own standard of excellence. Recognition, admiration, curiosity all arise without effort when you inhabit the latter state. And this is your invitation to see, to internalize, and to act not in desperation, but in alignment with the subtle architecture of attraction. By the time you have absorbed this, the initial revelation is clear. Women respond to men not for what they say or for how they try, but for who they are in the quiet, decisive moments that go unnoticed by the average observer. The principles are simple in concept, profound in effect: composure, intentionality, presence, and self-mastery. They operate beneath the surface, invisible yet undeniable, shaping perception before a word is spoken. And in this space between action and perception, between silence and recognition, lies the secret to effortless admiration, a truth so subtle that the untrained eye misses it, yet so powerful that its absence is unmistakable. You are beginning to see it, and in seeing it, you are already beginning to embody it. As you move deeper into this understanding, you begin to realize that respect is not a reaction, it is a recognition. Women do not grant it because you request it. They grant it because you carry traits that signal inner governance, the ability to lead yourself long before you lead anyone else. Here, the principles of Stoic discipline merge with the strategic clarity embraced by the sharper thinkers of history, forming a blueprint of masculine presence that cannot be faked, rushed, or borrowed. A woman senses when a man has shaped himself through trial and reflection. She also senses when a man leans on performance instead of substance. Attraction, at this level, becomes less about charm and more about calibration, how you govern your impulses, how you respond under pressure, how you hold your internal ground when emotion attempts to pull you into chaos. This is where the deeper tension emerges, the inversion that separates the men who are merely noticed from the men who are remembered. Most men approach interactions as if they are trying to win something, to secure an outcome, to extract approval from the moment. You approach it differently. You arrive grounded, aware, perceptive, not seeking victory, but seeking clarity. There is a silent authority in this shift, a quiet power that women feel in the way you hold your posture, the way your voice remains steady even when emotion runs high, the way you pause before you speak, revealing a mind that considers before acting. Women instinctively gravitate toward men who elevate the standard of interaction, who do not mirror emotional turbulence but contain it, absorb it, or redirect it with intentional calm. Every psychological insight shared here has a direct behavioral mirror. When you regulate your breath during moments of tension, you signal control. When you observe without reacting, you signal discernment. When you choose your battles rather than engaging in every provocation, you signal strategic intelligence. These subtle expressions reveal a man who is anchored, structured, and capable of carrying the emotional weight of his environment without collapsing beneath it. Women feel this even if they cannot articulate it, because the nervous system interprets steadiness as competence and competence as safety. The attraction that emerges from this is not explosive or chaotic. It is slow building, anchored, and enduring. Microclimaxes begin to form in your awareness as you connect these insights to experiences in your past, moments when your restraint drew interest, moments when your silence commanded attention, moments when your composure disrupted the habitual patterns of others. These moments, though small, reveal a larger truth. Influence is not loud, it is consistent. Authority is not forceful, it is intentional. Presence is not performance, it is a disciplined expression of self-respect. Women respond not to who you pretend to be, but to the reality you embody in the details she observes when you assume no one is watching. You begin to understand that the masculine mind grows in layers, not leaps. Each decision to remain composed adds a layer of gravity to your presence. Each refusal to be moved by external noise adds weight to your identity. Each imperfect moment in which you correct your posture, your tone, your attention, contributes to the accumulation of something women instinctively value: reliability paired with restraint. This is not about coldness or emotional withdrawal. It is about clarity. When your emotions serve your principles rather than the moment, you move from reactive to sovereign, from distracted to disciplined, from uncertain to unmistakably influential. Visualize the psychological landscape within a woman when she meets a man who embodies this level of internal alignment. Her mind immediately searches for inconsistencies, signs of insecurity, emotional volatility, or hidden desperation. When she does not find them, when your responses remain steady and unforced, when your presence reveals more than your words, her attention deepens. You create a contrast in her experience. Most men reveal everything too quickly. You reveal almost nothing unintentionally. This restraint is not withholding, it's intentional pacing. The kind that heightens curiosity because it communicates that you belong to yourself before you belong to anyone else. Here, philosophical insight and behavioral psychology merge into a singular realization. Women respect men who do not collapse under desire. They admire men who do not betray their standards for short-term gratification. They gravitate toward men who maintain sovereignty, even in the presence of beauty, attraction, and opportunity. This is not arrogance, it is discipline. It is the ability to acknowledge a woman's allure without losing your center. It is the silent declaration that desire is welcomed but not needed, that admiration is appreciated but not required. When you convey this through action rather than words, attraction intensifies not because you chase it, but because you remain unshaken in its presence. Through this understanding, you begin to see that your power lies not in acquiring attention, but in controlling the direction of your energy. When your focus is no longer dispersed across insecurities, external approval, or imagined expectations, it gathers into something dense and unmistakable. Women feel this density the same way one senses depth in a quiet ocean or structure in a towering mountain. It is a force that shapes perception without demanding it. And as this understanding grows, so does your sense of responsibility. Authority and discipline are not aesthetic choices. They are commitments that shape the man you are becoming, the man whose presence women instinctively respect. As this understanding settles deeper within you, a final truth emerges, one that alters not only how you perceive women, but how you interpret yourself. You begin to recognize that admiration is not something you pursue. It is something you evoke by the way you live, think, move, and discipline your inner world. A woman's respect is drawn to the man who stands firmly within his own life, a man whose identity is built from the inside out rather than borrowed from trends, peers, or fleeting emotions. This realization reshapes everything: the way you enter a room, the way you speak, the way you choose what deserves your attention and what does not. You no longer seek validation in the eyes of others, because you have learned to validate yourself through action, consistency, and quiet self-governance. And here lies the ultimate shift. Women instinctively recognize a man who has constructed himself with intention. They sense the layers beneath the surface, the patience that forged your restraint, the discipline that shaped your demeanor, the humility that corrected your mistakes, and the resolve that carried you through internal storms. Unlike the men who perform strength as a mask, you embody it as a baseline. Unlike the men who broadcast confidence for approval, you carry it without announcement. Unlike the men who collapse under impulse, you stand firm within the boundaries of your principles. A woman does not need to be told who you are. She feels it long before she understands why. This is where admiration becomes effortless, not because you demand it, but because you offer something rare in a world of hurried reactions and fragile egos: an unwavering center. Women respond with heightened curiosity when a man refuses to be shaped by their moods, or seduced into abandoning his purpose for momentary connection. They observe how you handle conflict without aggression, how you acknowledge emotion without drowning in it, how you move through uncertainty without surrendering your direction. Each of these behaviors forms an unseen thread in the tapestry of respect, weaving an impression that endures long after the conversation has ended. Your presence evolves into something that carries weight, not through intimidation, but through clarity. The clarity of knowing what you stand for, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you will never allow yourself to become. And it is this clarity that inspires admiration, not because it elevates you above others, but because it reveals a man who honors himself. In a world of scattered intentions and inconsistent behaviors, this level of internal alignment operates like a magnetic field. Women are drawn toward it instinctively, not out of infatuation, but out of a recognition that your steadiness has depth, that your strength has roots, that your attention is a privilege rather than a default. As this unfolds, you begin to understand that your interactions with women are not isolated moments. They are reflections of the man you have chosen to become. When you show restraint where others show desperation, you change the narrative of attraction. When you remain composed in the presence of beauty, you change the dynamic of desire. When you choose purpose over impulse, you redefine the meaning of masculine presence. Each choice you make becomes part of the architecture of your identity, a structure that women sense before they can articulate it, a structure that commands quiet admiration because it is built on discipline, self-awareness, and unwavering boundaries. The transformation solidifies when you realize that you no longer act for attention, you act from intention. You no longer speak to impress, you speak with purpose. You no longer chase affection, you offer presence. And it is in this offering, stripped of neediness or performance, that women find something they rarely encounter: a man who stands complete within himself. A man who does not require external validation to feel whole. A man who sees connection as an extension of his life, not the center of it. This orientation creates a psychological shift in the mind of a woman. She recognizes that your value is not dependent on her interest, and this understanding deepens hers. You become the kind of man who influences others without force, because your energy is disciplined, your mindset is fortified, and your presence is felt rather than advertised. Women admire men who do not bend under emotional weight, who do not dissolve into chaos, who do not lose themselves in pursuit of approval. They respect men who choose their responses carefully, who stand firm in their boundaries, and who carry themselves with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who he is. This is not aloofness or detachment. It is emotional maturity expressed through controlled intention. And now, as the layers converge, the opening vision returns with greater meaning. Imagine again that world where women are drawn to you, not because you strive to impress them, not because you seek their attention, but because your very presence evokes admiration. Now you understand why. Attraction built on performance is fragile. Attraction built on identity is unshakable. The subtle traits women instinctively respect are not techniques or tactics. They are reflections of a disciplined life, a fortified mind, and a man who chooses self-mastery over self-indulgence. You step into that world not through force, but through the steady refinement of your character. As the final truth settles, it becomes clear that the man who earns respect is the man who respects himself enough to cultivate discipline, presence, and purpose. The man who inspires admiration is the man who governs his own life with intention. The man who leaves a lasting impression is the man who carries history in his gaze, direction in his stride, and calm authority in his voice. And so you walk forward with this understanding, not as a performer, not as a seeker, but as a man who has embraced the quiet strength that shapes perception long before words ever do. In the end, the transformation is internal. You become the man whose presence speaks where language cannot, whose discipline forms the foundation of respect, and whose steadiness draws admiration as naturally as breath. And as you carry this into every room, every interaction, every moment of your life, you become the embodiment of the truth you have now uncovered. The man women instinctively respect, the man they quietly admire, the man whose presence echoes long after he has gone.